Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Juan Romero here from Switchwatch, and I'm back with a review. It's Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour on the Nintendo Switch, and I wanted to do this review, so I do apologise slightly to Jordan and Jason for sort of making them do the SpongeBob review, which I know Jordan isn't a huge fan of, but I think they did a great job. Anyway, I digress. I hope you're all well. Let's get into the story here. If you don't know the story by now, let me fill you in real quick. There's an alien invasion, and Duke needs to save the planet and kick some alien ass for getting anywhere near the ladies, or babes as he likes to call them, all the way through the game. One of the best things for me is Duke having a little chat with himself from time to time, with the great John St. John voicing some of the most memorable lines ever for me. In terms of gameplay, I want to tell a little bit of a story as well as sort of go into the gameplay here, because many of you would have heard of this game anyway. But when I first played Duke Nukem, I was a very impressionable young teen who was fascinated by action heroes like Stallone and Arnold in the movies, and then I came across Duke Nukem on the PC, which, looking back in time, was probably a Packard Bell that I had back then. Wasn't the most powerful, let's just say that. And I was instantly drawn to the gameplay, and so were all of my friends, where the environments were interactive. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say now, but at the time it was cutting edge. And as teenagers, it was kind of like all we would talk about for a while. It was like, oh my god, you can turn the projector on to show a lady on screen, or turn the light on to control the switch in a room. Not only were their environments interactive, but this had a badass dude with badass weapons blowing the shit out of badass looking aliens. And everything at the time felt cool, it felt awesome to play, and you were just instantly drawn to this character. Picking up a gun was as simple as running over it. Shooting enemies felt satisfying, but the game was also challenging. These enemies would do different things that you weren't used to. For example, the pigs, they lie down with the shotgun at times and you're not expecting it, or they hide in dark places. And then on top of that, these levels were really well designed in a labyrinth or maze type way, and you had to find key cards so that you could use them to open new doorways to get further, which was super cool. It made you as the player not only take part in the action but also explore the levels, which was the first time I had experienced that in an FPS. And funny enough, all these years later, not too much has changed. Of course, Duke was the ultimate action playable hero who had, let's face it, one of the best voices in a game that I can remember, with lines which are just absolutely, in my view, legendary. Everything here was over the top, from the violence, risque nature, to the way the game portrayed the ladies. And when I saw this edition come into the Switch, feelings of nostalgia arose, and I wanted to see if it was as good now as I remembered. And loading it up on the Switch, there are a few things that you're going to notice instantly. One of those is that you can play any of the levels you want straight off the bat in any of the 5 episodes included. Personally, I'm never the biggest fan of that, because it kind of takes away the motivation for me to actually go through each level to complete them. But there was something that did motivate me very much, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in this review. I would have preferred to complete the game and then sort of have the option afterwards, but hey ho, some of you will love that that's there straight off the bat. The other option is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, and that is having gyro controls and HT rumble, which is included, which I know many of you, especially from the people that I talk to on our Discord, you're going to love that. I personally, I'm not the biggest lover of gyro controls, so I turn them off, but that's my personal taste. What I can say is that it works perfectly fine here, and it's going to be a joy for those of you that love playing in handheld or with a Pro Controller with gyro controls. Other modes such as 8-player death matches are included, so you can play online or locally, and that's not all. You can also play through the campaign with up to 8 friends cooperatively, although I think one other person is more than enough, just my view. Now, Duke Nukem on the Switch plays as well as ever, and while the game of course does show its age, there are some nice touches, like being able to switch between the 1996 look or the remastered look. There is a new episode which has been added, which was created by the original designers. If you love a good old FPS, then that is exactly what you're going to get here. And for me, it is still a great time today as it was all the way back then. And of course, you've got the added nostalgia if you ever did play this back in the day. The reason it's still great today is because it had a strong level design in the first place, exploring its mazes, finding its secrets, and knowing that at any moment you may need to blow the crap out of an alien waiting around the next corner. But with hopefully a fantastic arsenal at your disposal, from rocket launchers, grenades, shotguns, and of course the new incinerator weapon. As long as you've not wasted all of your ammo, of course, and are not down to just your boot to kick aliens to death, then you're going to have a very good time. And for the more hardcore on high difficulty, the challenge is still as difficult as ever. There's even a handy map that you can bring up at any time should you wish to, so you can navigate the maze-like levels. And not only that, but if you do perish, you can rewind to any point in the level and start from there. So it's nice and accessible for those who want that. Again, another option that you can put on or off, however you want. In terms of audio, I want to talk about a few things that they've added here, which I think is pretty class. I think the backing tracks in Duke Nukem are some of the best. They keep the game feeling high-paced with its pacey synth tracks, and the music sounds great. For me, I found some of the sound effects, I say some, to be a little bit grating, especially some of the alien sounds when they perish. I did kind of wish that they had remastered that, or at least have the choice between the modern sound effects and the old ones like they do for the voiceover of Duke Nukem. But of course, you know, you'd probably be asking too much there. Now, I love the sound of Duke's voice. It still sounds great, along with some of the new talk, as well as the voiceover being re-recorded in higher fidelity, which is greatly appreciated, as I just never seem to tire of it. Here you can toggle between the higher fidelity lines recorded or play with the legacy voiceover if you desire, and there is a noticeable difference. Take a listen here just to see what I mean.
Let's rock, let's rock. Who wants some? Groovy.
Now, I found the new recordings to sound great, and it was how I prefer to play, but for players wondering how it sounded back in the day or how the visuals looked back in the day, you've got options here. A really nice feature for me, and actually it motivated me to play each level, was having the developer commentary switched on in the options. Visually represented by a mic in the level itself, you can just press play on one of these and stop and listen to what these developers had to say, and it's a really interesting insight, and I enjoyed this a lot.
Check up at the billboard there. Highly relevant social commentary.
People don't even know that.
Pop culture reference from 1995. So we are doing developer commentary of episode 5. It's hard to believe, but after 20 years, Alan Blum and Richard Levelord Gray have come back to build all new content for Duke Nukem 3D.
Now, visually and performance-wise, there are some options that you can either play in its original form or you can play in its remastered form at the switch of a button, and it's really cool to see that literally in front of your eyes. The devs call this true 3D. It's awesome to see all the little tricks as well that they used back in the day to give the player certain illusions of things, and it is fascinating to hear that game commentary. I really do recommend it. Such as, you know, they didn't have the Unreal tech that they have now, for example, and those little tricks and hacks that they had to do back then. For example, most of the objects are indeed quite flat, but when you move past them, they kind of move so that they're always facing your field of vision. Look closer though, you can see that the images are of course pixelated and quite flat, and of course that illusion, it's just fantastic to see how they did it back then. Of course, this is just how it was, and for most part of the game it looks okay, but of course it's going to show its age now compared to other games, which is no way a fair comparison. Flip it to the remastered mode and you do get a slightly better frames per second too, but they both play rather smoothly in handheld and docked, and I didn't notice too many sort of performance issues here. I did prefer though playing in handheld on this one. Value wise, if you buy the game right now, you can pick it up for a ridiculous $3.99 or £4 in the UK, $4.52 for our friends in the EU. Just fantastic value for money. There's absolutely no complaints on the price whatsoever. So as my verdict, if you want to know the kind of game that popularized the FPS games, then Duke Nukem had a massive part to play. I still found it an absolute blast, which has some hilarious moments, and the Switch gets some extras such as gyro aiming and HD rumble. Not for everyone of course, but this hit me like a nostalgic kick in the balls. And if you like a lead character who will remind you of the great action men we had in the late 80s and early 90s, who will blow the alien hordes apart with some awesome weapons, then this is a great price to buy it at right now. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this review. This week we've already reviewed SpongeBob, so I'll put the video up so you can check that one out if you want to. And at the weekends we look at all of the upcoming games for the coming week, and usually that involves myself, Jordan and James having a discussion if we're all around, and James will tell you about all of the latest bargains, and Jordan will let you know about all of the physical games that are going to release on the Nintendo Switch, along with an incredible community spotlight that you, ladies and gentlemen, help make so great. So we really do appreciate that. So our weekends are always very busy. We'd love to have you along for the ride. We keep watching so you don't have to. My name's Juan, and I'll see you again on the next one. Take care.
Oh,